The big question I think everyone wants answered. Should I buy Bitcoin? Will it crash? And the truth is, I was originally going to do a video talking about BuzzFeed, the state of journalism. It's a topic I frequently cover. You may have heard they're laying off many staff in their offices in the UK and I believe in the US. But then I start seeing all of these stories and tweets from people talking about Bitcoin. And it seems like too many people just don't really understand it. And before I go any further, I want to mention that I'm barely knowledgeable about Bitcoin, but I at least know a lot more than the average person and a lot of these journalists who don't seem to be doing their jobs when they're talking about Bitcoin. So you may have heard recently that Bitcoin hit $17,000 per coin. There's a lot that I need to talk to you about so I can explain to you why it's valuable, how you can buy Bitcoin, and what might happen. So first, a lot of articles talking about Bitcoin being a bubble. CNN Money has an article called Bitcoin versus History's Biggest Bubbles, They Never End Well. In this, they talk about tulip mania, which many people have likened to Bitcoin. In the early 17th century, speculation helped drive the value of tulip bulbs in the Netherlands to previously unheard of prices. Newly imported from Turkey, tulips were a big novelty at the time. It goes on to the South Sea bubble. In the 18th century, shares in the South Sea Company, a British trading firm, soared on expectations. It would soon reap bumper profits from trade with South America. We have the Wall Street crash of 1929 and the dot-com boom. Now, I lean more towards, to an extent, we're probably in a bubble. Bitcoin goes up and down. It's happened numerous times. Several years ago, Bitcoin hit $1,000 per coin and then fell down to several hundred. And I think its lowest at the point was like 300 or 400 after falling from 1,000. Every single time Bitcoin hits a large number, people call it a bubble. Back in 2011, Bitcoin was at 70 cents. When it hit $5, my friends were like, whoa, dude, Bitcoin should not be at $5. Do not buy. Bitcoin hit $20. I immediately sold all my Bitcoin and I ended up with, I think, $400. I had something around 20 or some odd Bitcoin. And going from $1 to $20, a 20 times return, you'd be crazy not to take it. Then Bitcoin hits $100, it's a bubble. It hits $200, it's a bubble. Hits $1,000, it's a bubble. The bubble pops and Bitcoin falls down to 600. And then everyone says, uh-oh, here it is. And it creates a panic, people sell. Then Bitcoin went back up to 1,000, and this year it's up nearly 2,000%. Just a few months ago, I was buying crypto at around 2,700, and today one Bitcoin is worth nearly $16,000. So first, people say, what's going to happen when you can no longer afford a Bitcoin? For those that don't understand this, Bitcoin, they break down to decimal points. One Bitcoin is not the standard unit of purchase. You can actually buy 0.001, 0.00001, and the smallest increment is called a Satoshi. One Satoshi right now, it is the 8th decimal point of a Bitcoin, is selling for 0.000015757 US. It's not even a penny, okay? So you can actually buy lots of Bitcoin fractions. If you really want to get involved, you can buy 10,000 Satoshi right now for $1.57. Round up, we'll call it $1.58. When looking at these past bubbles, I'm not an economic expert, but one of the things they mention is that when the price of the commodity, when the price of the stock or whatever becomes too high for the average person, there's no more demand, the price can't keep going up. In which case, people start selling, there's no one to buy, and the prices tank. And that's still possible with Bitcoin. A lot of people bought Bitcoin at a couple $100. I mean, even a year ago, you could have bought nearly at around 1,000. And today you're seeing a 17 times return on your investment, in which case a lot of people are going to start selling off. There's a lot of posts on Reddit where people are saying they're selling off, they're paying off their student loans, they're paying off their houses, they're buying cars, and all of that is possible, but it doesn't mean Bitcoin will crash. Now, in my opinion, I think Bitcoin is definitely going to fall. It's unheard of. The spikes we're seeing, I mean, it's ridiculous. But you also need to keep in mind that even with the dot-com boom, when people started investing like crazy into websites, Google and Amazon came out of this, eBay came out of this, PayPal came out of this. There are a lot of companies that did in fact become extremely valuable, and Amazon is extremely valuable today. There are a lot of stories that keep getting written saying that Bitcoin has no intrinsic value. They're saying a Bitcoin is only worth what someone is willing to pay for it. That's true. And they're also missing a very serious point. Bitcoin has value. It's hard to track on an individual basis. Yes, the ledger shows us who spent what where, what coins went to what address, but finding out who has what address is a bit more difficult. It is possible, and in some instances, it's easier than cash. But people have found ways to obfuscate this information, and they can work behind the scenes. This is why we see the Silk Road, people selling drugs. It's easy to transfer value over state lines, over international borders, and skirt certain government regulations. Now, when I say government regulations, I don't just mean the United States. Foreign countries have very strict regulations on how you can and cannot send money to certain places. With Bitcoin, many different countries were able to send value immediately. So let's say a Bitcoin is only worth what people are willing to pay for it. There are people who want to transfer, say, $1,000 in fiat. We'll compare the value to the US dollar. So let's say someone in China has $1,000 and they want to send that to a company in the United States for some work. Well, going through the banks is cumbersome and sometimes costs a lot of money, and sometimes there's paperwork. Let's say they're trying to send $200,000. That can be pretty damn difficult. Or they can go onto a website, instantly buy Bitcoin, instantly send that Bitcoin to someone in the US. That person in the US verifies through the public and private keys that make Bitcoin work that they are holding this information, that they have this value, and then they immediately sell it for US dollars. The Bitcoin doesn't actually stay in their accounts longer than a few hours, or as long as it takes for the Bitcoin to transact. Large amounts of Bitcoin need to be confirmed by multiple nodes on the network to verify the transaction is legitimate. So large transactions can take some time, but you are able to send a lot of money across international boundaries nearly instantly. So let me reiterate, Bitcoin has value because it allows people to instantly send currency or value itself to someone far away. This allows people in the US to send money to China, back and forth, Brazil, for instance, Venezuela even. So what ends up happening? Let's say a Bitcoin is trading for $16,000. It doesn't matter. I need to send $1,000 to Japan. So I buy $1,000 worth of Bitcoin, and that comes out to 0.06 Bitcoin. I do not care how much Bitcoin I'm buying so long as it is worth $1,000. I send that 0.06 to my friend in Japan or to my coworker, colleague, or company I'm contracting, and they sell it immediately. That never sits in their account. They don't care if Bitcoin goes up or down. They simply use it as a means to send value somewhere else. So there is a possibility that at some point many people start selling off all their Bitcoin and the price tanks, but that will not impact the service, the decentralized service of sending value overseas, so long as there are any people buying or selling at any price. Let's say Bitcoin falls to $1 and everyone's panicking, they've lost all this money, the Bitcoin millionaires are wiped out. I can still buy $1,000 worth of Bitcoin, which would be 1,000 Bitcoin at that point, send it to Japan, and they can sell it immediately and get their dollars out of it. So there is an intrinsic value outside of just holding it. A lot of people say it's simply a digital asset, it's digital gold. That's technically true, but there is a service function to this. Now, a lot of people use it for nefarious reasons. Silk Road, for instance. They're buying Bitcoin, using it to buy drugs, and it's hard to track. Keep in mind, there's a public ledger, so we know what addresses are sending and receiving where. There's ways to make this harder to track, for sure, but there's a reason why people are using Bitcoin for drugs, and it's that it's very easy to make transactions under the nose of the government, so that they have no idea what was going on. I know a lot of people who have flat out told me they buy Bitcoin so they can hide money from the government. They don't want to pay taxes on it, which I personally disagree with. Don't break the law, don't do anything illegal, that's stupid, but certainly a lot of people are doing this. Some of the biggest proponents of Bitcoin are the anarcho-capitalist libertarian crowd, and they're doing it because they view it as a way to transact beyond state lines and with whoever they want without having the government track what they're doing or be able to prove that they did anything at all. The big question I think everyone wants answered. Should I buy Bitcoin? Will it crash? And the truth is, I don't think anyone really knows. But a lot of the people in the tech community who have been watching Bitcoin are bullish on it. And a lot of people who are anarcho-capitalists or libertarians are also bullish on it. It seems to me that most people I know who understand how Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies work are excited by it and want to stay on board no matter what. Bitcoin today is around $16,000. It's going to go up, it's going to go down. But even if Bitcoin falls dramatically, it is still valuable in its functionality. It is a digital asset that cannot be replicated. And that's really interesting, using cryptography. It's something new we've never seen before. So there's a new technology aspect to this. And there's also the service it provides of being able to transfer money around the world instantly. But hopefully that was at least informative to some degree, keeping in mind, if we could predict the future, we'd all be rich, right? So, tomorrow Bitcoin might be $1 again. We really have no idea. I think it's unlikely, but Bitcoin might take a huge stumble. It could seriously just drop. A lot of people have become Bitcoin millionaires this year. Again, it keeps happening. And the more we hear about Bitcoin millionaires, the more people want to be involved, and it's going to keep driving the price up. It's hard to know when to sell or if to sell. But I'll say this, I am not going to sell the Bitcoin and cryptocurrency that I have. I'm going to hold it. I don't care if it falls. I don't care if it loses most of its value. I think it has an intrinsic value as a technology. And I think in the long run, in the future, it's going to be worth significantly more. That's just my opinion. So let me know what you think in the comments below. I know a lot of people aren't too big on Bitcoin, but I think I had to address it because this is a big story right now. I mean, the value has exploded. We'll keep the conversation going. If you want to support my work, you can go to timcast.com/donate. Give whatever you'd like or give nothing at all. My videos are always free and available every day at 4 p.m. And yes, on my website, I have Bitcoin addresses, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Bitcoin Cash, and Litecoin, I believe. So that's on my website too if you're a crypto person. And thank you all so much for watching. I'm on Twitter @Timcast, and I will see you all tomorrow at 4.